Come on, Winston. Our little co-host. Winston. There you are. What's up, little buddy? It's time. Can't do the show without you. Gotta chill with Daddy. Let's go. All right, welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, People's Pundit. Don't forget to like the videos if you like them and share them far and wide. Best place to follow us, as always, is right there down there on Locals, peoplespundit.locals.com, peoplespundit.locals.com. Do not forget, unless I'm missing something, and Sunday's a holiday like I did for Easter, book club, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Know your stuff. Don't be like these other tools out there who go on and on droning about replacement theory and nationalism and this and that and have no idea what they're talking about. Join the book club. Nations and Identities is the book. Vincent Pecora is the editor. We were reading Gandhi last week, which was very cool, but different, totally different. Great example, by the way. Great example. Everybody loves Gandhi. Who doesn't love Gandhi, right? Until you find out that Gandhi is not the most persuasive person when you dig into his arguments, that he was living in a fantasy world, right? You would not know that, right? So don't forget, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you are a supporter on Locals or if you're a member on YouTube, you can join the book club, all right? Let's dig into this. We specifically did not do the first 100-day poll last weekend. Of course, we were still running the public polling project, but that's not the only reason why. There were big economic indicators that were coming out. We're doing the sentiment, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And I'm getting asked a lot about what else are we doing? Is it just going to be this? Is it just going to be that? With the exception of a few things that we're going to kind of banter back and forth with, and I'm just going to read your comments and you tell me what you think. I don't want to blow it up with all this crap that all these big media pollsters throw in. This garbage, because you're not getting to the source of anything. I think what I want to ask, if we do, is the tariff question in the way we have always asked it, because that's the way is relevant in the Trump era. Nobody wants prices to go up. Do you approve or disapprove of what Trump is doing with tariffs? They're being told prices are rising because of his tariffs. Like, so when it comes back, disapprove. No shit, Sherlock. Like, do you feel that the tariff strategy is worth it? Is a more relevant question to ask. And there's all of these pollsters that we're all being drowned in. I was just doing something totally unrelated and actually listening to a woman tell me about Trump's approval rating, all right? Which is hilarious because, of course, it tells me no matter how many times I'm beating that dead horse that I'm always telling you I'm beating, you're not going to reach everybody. And it's going to be people who think they know what they're talking about that aren't aware of what I'm about to tell you right now. Number one, obviously, Donald Trump's approval rating is not where the New York Times has it. Anytime somebody comes out with a poll and tells you something, the first thing that you should immediately react to and ask yourself or ask the people around that you're talking with about this, how did they do in the last election? How accurate were they in the last election? End of story. Because if you cannot poll the damn election, you can't poll anything else. If you're wrong about every battleground state, you're wrong about how people feel about gun control. If you're wrong, especially in the mid-Atlantic and in the Rust Belt, northern Midwest states, if you don't know that Trump is going to beat her in Michigan and he's going to beat her kind of comfortably, then don't tell me how the people in Michigan feel about tariffs, because you don't know. And you can't do your job well enough to find out. Also, these other questions are loaded questions. So I do want to keep it as simple as we possibly can. And I'm going to play one clip. I don't know if I'm going to go hit the clip barrel today. There's a couple of things I could play, but there's one clip that really kind of explains, if you're really listening, It'll explain why I don't want to load it up with all these stupid questions you're seeing in the 100-day polls. And also, by the way, like I said, it wouldn't have mattered if the public polling project was totally funded. I probably still would have waited. One, there's a ton of noise out there. Ton of noise. Number two, we had a bunch of economic indicators. I saw Robert Cahaley. I'll show you that in a second. And I'm wondering what you guys think. I think he probably made the right decision. Okay. But he himself held off on the poll because of those indicators. Whether we're polling a Democrat or we're polling a Republican president, it doesn't matter. You have to be fair with when you're going to field. Some of the big aspects of like polling propaganda don't get as much attention as, well, this sample's garbage or the pollster manipulated and did this. A lot of it is omission and timing. You know you're going to get a response bias immediately after a presidential debate. You know you are. Should you immediately enter the field and harness that response bias, or should you wait and that be a more accurate an accurate representation of how people think? You wait. You wait. You wait for the noise to quiet down. You wait for it to be an environment that's more conducive to robust and more accurate gauging of public sentiment, and you do your damn job. Ethically and correctly. I'm out of coffee. Banabla. All right. I don't think he's going to drone on and on long enough for me to get a cup of coffee, so it'll just have to wait. But this is why I don't want to ask all of this stuff, because, God, it's May 2nd, 2025. Don't forget to pay your mortgages if you haven't paid your mortgage. It's May 2nd, 2025, and this is the first time I heard somebody who's supposedly a polling expert or a statistical analyst, analyst that knows what the hell he's doing, or Savology or anything, where he started to actually catch on to why they're constantly surprised over, Trump's strength and his support, especially when he's on the ballot. Forget about anything else. And when he's on the ballot, he gets these votes that they never consider him to get. Here's why. Because, and this is the trap that pollsters fall into all the time. And then they take that knowledge and they think that's epistemological question. Because what do you think you know, right? And how did you come to that conclusion? But they go out and poll these really loaded, cheesy questions. And then they take that and they give advice to campaigns, which then blow billions of dollars every election cycle, based on what that pollster thought he knew, or that consultant thought he knew. And then they're sitting there with their thumbs up there, what's on Wednesday morning going, how the hell did this happen? We didn't only lose, we got our asses kicked. Because Trump is a different animal. And these policies, you're like basically asking people, do you like turmoil or do you not? You could phrase it a totally different way. Do you think Washington, D.C. needs change? Well, of course. But are you willing to see the disruption that comes along with that change? They do it in reverse to poll Donald Trump. And then they don't get to the heart of what is going to cause people to support or oppose not only him, but others are doing. There's another election just happened. Nigel Farage, his party, did exceptionally well in these parliamentary mayoral elections. Everybody's stunned, like, oh my God, the Reform Party won again. Because you're not focusing on the questions that people really care about and what is going to decide how they do and they don't vote. And here's where it matters with Trump, because Republicans then take the answers to these wrong questions and use them as excuses to be cowards and to hinder his agenda. Don't tell me Rand Paul is philosophically against tariffs. Don't give me that shit. I don't want to hear it. I've been in this game too long. The Senate Democrats are corrupt. That's why they oppose tariffs. Because K Street pays for everything, including the toilet paper they wipe their asses with. They're going to take these numbers and they're going to decide, well, those tariffs are unpopular. I guess I'll oppose them and I'll look like a champion. And then after the midterms, they'll wonder why they have 49 seats or 50 seats when they could have had 54 or 56, right? This is the segment. Here we go.
Harris obviously doesn't hold elected office right now, but Democrats in Congress sure do. So who do you trust more on the U.S. main problems, the main problems in the United States? Well, what do we have here? It's the same exact picture, folks. It's the same exact picture. When you match Donald Trump against his actual competition, Donald Trump comes out ahead. Look at this, 40% to congressional Democrats, 2%. Going to make a big circle here. But the bottom line is, when you look at Donald Trump in a vacuum, it's one thing. But when you actually match him up against folks in the real world, all of a sudden his numbers look considerably better. And when you match him up against his main competition at this point, Democrats in Congress, he is more trusted on the main problems facing the United States right now. In fact, it's not even close. It's an 8-point advantage, which in this politics, well, that's a wide ocean.
Whoops, almost muted myself. Okay, before he goes on and on and on and talks about this wide ocean, if you took, excuse me, that very same question and you asked people, who do you trust more to handle these things? And by the way, they trust main U.S. problems. What are the main U.S. problems right now? If you're polling voters and you're talking, what's in the news? Tariffs, the economy, trade, the price of things, inflation. They trust Trump more than Democrats. That's great. They also trust Trump more than Republicans. Which number matters more? The number that's polluted with bias and loaded based on a question that was loaded. Do you support or oppose what Trump is doing right now? If on tariffs, if they're being told that tariffs are raising prices, is that the real question we should be asking people? Is that going to serve anyone? Polling is expensive. You guys support the public polling project. It shouldn't be filled with useless questions that actually could, by the way, do more harm than good. Laura just, It's a waste of your money, my time, your time, to be putting in this questionnaire all of the same nonsense that you've been seeing in the other 100-day polls. By the way, all from pollsters who couldn't poll shit during the election. Why would we bother doing that? I almost have no interest in the tit for tat back and forth that we do every year. There has to be a point where we force them to move on. Be better, do better, serve the interests of the public better. If you slapped Republicans right next to that question, you're going to get probably very close to the same margin for Trump. It would be Trump plus 15, Trump plus 20, Trump plus this. But they don't trust politicians at all. That's why the guy keeps winning. Unless you unleash a deadly pathogen on the entire world to kill old voters who vote for him, and then, make unsolicited mail-in ballots legal, so you can have like every reality winner nutcase and Joy Reid nutcase fill in 410 ballots that get mailed to their house for people who no longer live at that address and haven't lived there in like 6 years. That's why all these conversations are important to have, honestly. Truth be told, they don't trust Republicans anymore.
It's huge and maybe tells the Democrats that their messaging is not working at
Correct.
this point in time.
Okay. By the way, let's just stop and that's the third time she did that in the segment. They are using this segment as a instructional video for Democrats instead as an instructional video for their viewers. And I don't want that to be said of inside the numbers. Like, the public or the public polling project, that this is being turned into a, look, Trump tweeted Rich the other day. Well, I don't want this a place where people can go to, get advice for their campaigns and whatever else they're doing. This is for you. This is an instructional video for Democrat, the same way that the New York Times interviewed the other day last week with David Shore was done solely to tell Democrats what David thinks they're doing wrong.
Speaking of the big issues, which party is better trusted when it comes to things like the economy and immigration still?
Right. Okay. So we kind of talk about it a little bit up here when we match up Donald Trump against the Democrats in Congress. But what about the parties up against each other, right? Donald Trump has not seen those favorable polls when it comes to the economy, when it comes to immigration. But look here, which party has a better plan? And this is the margin among registered voters. Look at this on immigration. The GOP crushes the Democrats. Look at that. That's a 19-point edge. My goodness gracious. You rarely ever see leads like that in politics these days. How about on the economy, where Donald Trump's numbers have been struggling a little bit? But even there, Republicans hold a 9-point lead. If Democrats think that at this particular point, just because Donald Trump is unpopular, that they're going to run away with it like a Heisman Trophy winner, that is not necessarily the case.
That was pretty good, honestly. Let's give credit where credit's due. That was kind of funny, Harry. All right, that wasn't this Ozzie and Harriet kind of reference, like gee willikers, Wally. Like that was pretty good.
These numbers should be a major wake-up call for Democrats. Despite Donald Trump's unpopularity in the polls, when you actually go up against him and you put Democrats' names against him, when you put Republicans as a whole up against him, Republicans and Donald Trump do considerably better. And that is why Democrats, in fact, cannot count their chickens just yet, because those eggs have not cracked at this particular moment.
Brother.
I think you said
the saying is, don't count your chickens before they hatch, brother. Not cracked, hatched. Mr. Genius. All right, let's listen to her last suggestion.
pivotal thing, the important thing, which is Democrats are not going to be running away with anything. They have to start thinking about what their message is going forward.
That's exactly right, because at this point, the Democratic message ain't selling a thing.
Instructional videos. Again, Trump is unpopular and underwater, according to the same pollsters who shit the bed every election in the entire Trump era. I am so curious to see where we end up with Trump when I look and I see Emerson Spencer, honest guy. If he's wrong because he made a legitimate mistake. Spencer, brother, just stop polling Florida, please. All right. It's not an easy state unless you spend 15 years there polling it like I did. It's not an easy state. All right. But Spencer just had him even. And it's so hard to get a president to 40 in modern America. These are the same people, by the way. They all polled Biden too high until Biden needed to be pushed out of the race. Then Biden was at 33. Pew Research included. Pew shit the bed too. High quality pollsters. We are too partisan to push presidents easily down to 33%. What it took for the last president to truly be there was George W. Bush. And that is because after it was already an unpopular war, then you got an economic crisis. He did fairly decent among Hispanics, even though Trump did better than him. He did fairly decent with them, but they were most hit disproportionately so by the financial crisis. They were the ones being sold these lies about variable rate mortgages, etc., and they got hurt bad. So much so that net migration actually went in the other direction for the first time. People wanted to go back to Mexico. But also his evangelical base, who supported him all the way through the Iraq War. Once the economy crashed, once it collapsed, and he betrayed them. And he did. He betrayed them on his free market values that he apparently did not have. Once he instructed Henry Paulson to make the deal with Wall Street, that was it for them. We haven't seen a scenario like that in a very long time. We haven't seen a president's base give up on them. Obama was unpopular with independents, and he was unpopular with Republicans at the end, but liberals, left-wingers, did not start to abandon him in droves. There was a time when certain Democrats did start to turn on Joe Biden, but that's how you get him to 37%. Below the mid-30s? Give me a break. They did that because George Clooney told them to, and George Stephanopoulos told them to. I love you. I needed that cup of coffee badly. Don't forget, 1775, baby. By the way, you guys see, have you guys gotten these cups? Who makes disposable cups this pretty? And they're durable. The other day, because I'm an idiot, I dropped one about full, just like 8 ounces like this, or maybe 6, maybe I had some of it. But the caps that go on them, which I don't have on it now, but I dropped it and it tipped over on its side, but the cap was down. Nothing spilled out. And that's good because I dropped it on my McKinley made in North Carolina leather couch. And I was like, in slow motion, and it didn't even fall off. Thank the Lord. I'm always on the kids and I'm always on Winston, no eating on the couch, no drinking on the couch, no nothing. I can do it because, well, I pull that stuff, that man of the house, double standard stuff. Absolutely. You know what? When you get older and you build a house and you furnish it, and you pay for everything, then you can make your own rules and do whatever you want. But until then, I'm the only one who eats on this furniture. Thank you very much. Go eat at the table. And then I dropped it. Oh, I would have never heard the end of it. Anyway, so there we are. Yeah, but it is very difficult to see a president down there at 35%. Trump's base is bigger than it has ever been. To imagine that he would fall to 40% at this point in his presidency is very difficult for me. 45, I could see that. So I can't wait to find out. But his base is bigger now. It includes a whole bunch of voters that these pollsters can't find. Then they suck. That's why they suck. Even if they can, they're liars anyway. I mean, can we just get over the charade with this? By the way, I'll be on Unstructured with Eric Hundley at 6 p.m. today, Mark and Eric, to talk about what everybody's talking about. Every time the president does this, I get 15 calls from people that you probably would imagine I don't like very much. So everyone's always like, oh, it's cool. Did you see the president posted your tweet? It's like, yeah, okay. That's how you get on their radar and they start coming after you. It is. So anyway, before we take your questions, and we're going to, this is already 2:30. We're going to have to hit them up soon. I'm looking at your question right now, crew. I'll get there. I don't want to load it up with nonsense. We need direction of country, the right track, wrong track poll. We need economic sentiment, which is why I wanted to hold off anyway until this weekend. But for people who don't, you know what? I didn't get a chance to do this on Wednesday. So before we take a break, give me 1 second. I just want to show you guys something. Okay. I don't think that GDP was bad at all. And I'm going to show you why. Now, it doesn't matter what I think. How Americans perceive the news, whether they trust the media outlets or not. How they perceive things to be is what matters. This is what I try to tell everybody before the election over and over and over and over. It doesn't matter if you are telling us there's so much job creation. First of all, it was a lie. Every time it was revised down, even the government that deals with these numbers, you can't even believe them or take them at face value. You have to be skeptical when you look at their numbers because they lie for Democrats all the time. They lied to get Barack Obama elected. They lowered the employment rate below 7% just to get Obama reelected. And guess what? It was a scam. Same thing with the Bureau of Economic Analysis. Donald Trump becomes president. GDP goes to 3% annual for the first time since before the Great Recession. And they change how they calculate annual GDP and report on the top line number. If it wasn't for Charles Payne and I, nobody would have said anything. All of a sudden, oh yeah, that it's always been an alternative measure. Right, it's been an alternative measure of GDP. So why are you reporting that as the top line now? So they did this so Obama could keep his promise of lowering unemployment below 7% in his first term, even though it was a scam. It was a con. And they did that with GDP so Donald Trump couldn't keep his 3% campaign promise. So you always have to take it with a grain. But according to the Atlanta Fed and all these other forecasts, GDP was supposed to be coming in way worse than what it came in. And it didn't. Okay? Just so you guys know, let's go to our handy dandy. You guys know I love Econo Day. And by the way, the consumer confidence index, all of that. I'm curious what we find because I just don't buy it. The Atlanta Fed was negative 1.5%. Negative 1.5%. Consumer consumption was supposed to decline. Consumer consumption, which is spending, personal consumption expenditures, because we are a service sector economy and not a goods producing economy, which is what Trump changed in his first term and is trying to change again. Or he changed it somewhat until COVID. COVID hurt a lot of the progress he made. What does that mean? He wants us to make things in America again so you can get paid a better wage to do it. Whether you agree or disagree with that agenda, fine. You don't like Donald Trump, that's fine. But make no mistake, we tell the truth here. That is what he wants. He does not want this to be an economy where you're either a credentialed person who has a degree in something and you make, and the only other way to get a job is to get a job that waits on those people. All right, or services those people in some way, shape, or form. He does not. That's Obama's economy. That's Biden's. That's the post-recession, Great Recession, left-wing model for the economy. Why? Because now they're the party of Wall Street and K Street and Silicon Valley. That services these people, and it goes along with globalism, which is the general idea: you export your wealth to other countries in exchange for them giving you a piece of theirs. Of course, by they, I mean you. I'm talking about the ruling class only. The rest of you get nothing. You get to mow lawns, or you get to, scrape gum off of the bottom of park benches, or you get to bring them their top shelf Long Island iced teas. You don't get a living wage. You don't get to manufacture. You don't get to construct. You don't get to do anything. And there's nothing wrong with mowing lawns. By the way, I did it for years. I did. Before I went to college and the Army. All right. And by the way, I did pretty good doing it. But you know what I mean. And oh, by the way, you can't even do that anymore because Juan's mowing the lawn for much cheaper. And you can't go work at Merry Maids because Juanita, Juan's wife, is folding Nancy's clothes for a lot cheaper than you will. If we make more things in America, we go from being a 2/3 personal consumption economy to a roughly maybe 45% personal consumption economy. And the rest comes from actually making shit and exporting it to the rest of the world. And this is where it matters, okay? Whether you like Donald Trump or not, if you believe, oops, I just ended that. If you believe what drove GDP down, then you can see it's working. It is. It's working. All right, so let's get rid of old Harry here. Okay. Here is the Bureau of Economic Analysis report, and I got to go through this quick because we have to get to your questions, and it doesn't look like there's that many yet. I probably can blast through them, but Laura always gets pissed when I do not. All right. This is what they said. Let me put it up on the big screen. It serves two purposes for me to do that. One is so you can see what I'm about to read, and the other is that I can take a sip of coffee and a puff of my vapor, and you can't see it. I'm always thought it was like rude to smoke, eat, or drink on camera. If you go on Fox News, believe me, they're not going to let me take a sip of my coffee while I'm on Fox News. Okay. They're just not going to allow that. You don't do that. I remember having somebody on early days of Inside the Numbers, and a guy used to constantly eat. And Laura would be like, look, I'm not producing a show with this guy eating anything or chewing on camera. Like, I'm removing him as much as I can from the shop, but what the hell is wrong with this guy? I thought he knew etiquette, and he was on Fox Business a lot. I tell the guy that day, I'm like, look, we love having you on. You do great, but you can't eat on camera. This guy goes and stuffs an entire muffin in his mouth on camera and starts chewing like a horse. Laura booted him, and he's never been back. All right. Real gross domestic product decreased at an annual rate of 0.3% in the first quarter of 2025, a far cry from the negative 1.5 the Atlanta Fed told us we were going to have. Also, it is important that you note, and we all know, that the revisions they don't always lead to stronger numbers, but things that are in this estimate, All right. There are 3 estimates. This is the advanced estimate. Okay. Typically, it's unsure how it's going to impact it. But in this case, given what we know what's causing growth and what's causing decline, it's actually almost a certainty that GDP will actually be positive when the 3rd revision is done. All right. And that's important that you guys know that, right? Anyway, according to the advanced estimate, in the 4th quarter of 2024, real GDP increased 2.4%. The decrease in real GDP in the 1st quarter primarily reflected an increase in imports, which are a subtraction in the calculation of GDP, and a decrease in government spending. These movements were partly offset by increases in investment, consumer spending, and exports. Exports. And investment. Listen, the point is, if Trump is going to structurally change the economy the way that he told everybody he was going to do when he ran for office, not like any of this is a surprise. It's called a campaign. You tell people what you intend to do if elected. You have to cut the fake growth. That's fake growth. Nobody believes the economy was growing at the pace it was growing under Joe Biden, or for that matter, even under Trump during his first administration, and for sure under Barack Obama's, because of course they changed how and what is calculated in GDP at the Bureau of Economic Analysis after the Great Recession during the Obama administration and make growth look stronger than it was. Hollywood decides, I'm going to budget for a movie we're going to do next year. Guess what? That's growth. It wasn't before Obama took office, but it is now. Trump must slash the trade deficit and increase exports if he wants to get rid or slice the trade deficit. He must. It's going to hurt at first. And the worst part about that pain is that it's supposed to be a big net negative on consumer spending. And when you looked at all the other forecasts of -1.5, right? That's because they were forecasting consumer spending to go from +4% in the 4th quarter to -0.5% in this quarter. Consumer spending was 1.8%. And how much of that was really due to the policy itself? Since eggs are still down, gas is down, lumber is down. How much of that is actually due to a decline in consumer spending because of the rise of prices? Yeah, I'm going to sit here and argue right now, absolutely nothing. This is due to fear. Fear-mongering by the media who want these numbers to be bad. They want them to be bad so they can go and tell you, I told you so. One good thing the guys always write about is that the media cheerleads against the country. When a foreign president is sitting in the Oval Office, joking with the president and saying, yeah, I know, the media hates your country. Any fear-mongering tactics should probably be looking at with the stink eye, dude. Stink eye. All right. Look, let's take a real quick break because, it's just honestly, they did that. That's true. They create a ton of panic that's unjustified. And unfortunately, they do much worse than that. This is an entity or a force in our society that's willing to cause mass shootings so they can get rid of the Second Amendment. You think they won't cause economic panic so they can get what they want? Of course they will. Of course they will. All right. Speaking of which, let's take a real quick break. And when we get back, we'll hit up some of your questions. And I'll finish exactly what I was talking about. It is time for a generic ballot, by the way, but I'm getting a bit of my head of myself. We have to get a generic ballot. One side of our polling was that in 2024 that wasn't spot on, although it did underscore something. Like it identified a problem and identified something that was going to happen, which was that Republicans were going to underperform Donald Trump in key areas across the country. in this for the House and Senate, and they did. But if you just combine the total national vote for the House, Republicans did still win it. We had them running just shy of Democrats, and certainly shy of Trump. But as it turned out, that was a geography thing, weighting wise, I don't think it would have changed the top line for Harris in any way, because we have gone back and tried to play with those weights to see if, how could we have gotten this where the House vote was right and the presidential vote was right. And it wasn't happening. So I don't want to draw the conclusion that I think I personally have drawn, which is that I don't believe either vote particularly. But there are things that happen down ballot. There are people who go and vote for president all the time, but leave the down ballot races empty. That happened a lot. So I think what might have happened is that a lot of people who don't like Republicans may have been throwing their vote to third party in our poll. And in reality, they may have not had a third party choice in their particular district, or they couldn't bring themselves to vote for the Democrat. Maybe they just decided, okay, I'll vote for the Republican. And in some cases, instead of voting for the Democrat, leaving that blank and just saying, I don't know who this third party person is, or I don't even have one. And so they did that. All right. So, whoops, what did I do? That's why you don't touch the control board. You leave it to Laura. Whoops. I'm glad I didn't just do something incredibly stupid. All right, let's take a break. B-roll time. Yeah, well, it's easier to do that. Look, no secret, I'm absolutely in love with 1775 coffee. I'm in love with it. I'm drinking it right now, Hopefully, if you're watching Inside the Numbers, it means you're someone who follows the facts and you question the narrative. So why would you drink coffee that's weak, compromised, or quietly pushing the same corporate agenda that we're all over here trying to fight? 1775's Rejuvenate coffee is the first of its kind. A bold, dark roast infused with CA-AKJ. Just like that. Pronounced just like that. CA-AKJ. A clinically studied compound that's shown to support strength, energy, and healthy aging at the cellular level. God knows I need it. CA-AKG levels drop with age. So does recovery, stamina, clarity. Guys, don't lie to yourselves. This puts it back in your system where it belongs. Need sharper focus? Mushroom coffee is just as powerful, with 5 functional mushrooms to fuel mental clarity, long-lasting energy, and strengthen immune. This is real coffee with real benefits, built by people who believe in freedom of speech, freedom of choice, and the truth, even when it's inconvenient. Single origin, mold-free, toxic-free, woke-free. Roasted weekly in Miami. If you are a admirer of the skill that is coffee roasting, you will admire this. No corporate filters, no ESG nonsense. Just bold coffee that backs the Constitution and not compliance. It supports the voices that corporate media won't, like me. Go to 1775coffee.com. Use the promo code TPP, obviously, for the People's Pundit. Use the promo code TPP. Save yourself 15% off. Start your morning with coffee that stands for truth, freedom, and a country that you believe in. All right? Dark roasts, good stuff. Really good stuff. Medium roast, love jam and bean for medium roast. All right? Dark roast, 1775 is it. So good. Have you guys tried it yet? By the way, if you have, shoot me your comments. I love getting your feedback on all the stuff. Everyone who knows this little space knows I'm the biggest pain in the butt when it comes to advertising. I don't know. I guess a lot. I'm not going to say everyone. A lot of people just say whatever. And I am like, no, I think I'm going to run some data on this first and I'll get back to you. Send me your product. I'll check it out. I'm going to do a little focus group and I'll let you know. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. You think I'm kidding? I am not kidding. All right. I don't do anything with data and I'm not going to just sell something to get a paycheck. I love it. It's great. All right. And tell me what you guys think about it as well. All right. I knew somebody was going to ask me this at some point. I knew. Speaking of, I should ask you guys this. There are 2 things I wanted to run by you guys. I don't know if I can do this in this space, but I think it might be time. You probably don't even know about the first one because I don't tout it. It's touted. It was a thesis and super wonky. So it's not for everybody. But basically, what I was trying to argue first, in the only book that I did write, which was many years ago now, it was 12 years ago, was that you can actually measure a society's virtue within a system like this, a constitutional framework of government, because government grows as virtue declines. And you have somebody like Robert Higgs, The Crisis in Leviathan, who he argued that they use crisis when they have to in order to expand the size of the public sector. And then when it recedes after that crisis is over, you never get back the size and scope of government that you had before. So it's this constant march to tyranny. And by the way, book clubbers, you know what I'm talking about with Bernard Bailyn and the ideological origins of the American Revolution. Our founders believe this as well, that there's always this constant tug of war between tyranny and liberty. And you're always going to lose if you're not on your guard. And as Jefferson said, sure, you got rights. You also have obligations. And with every right that you have comes an obligation. Otherwise, you'll lose the right, and that's it. You have a right to defend yourself. You're obliged to learn how. You're obliged to learn. You're obligated to learn about firearms. So every time some David Hogg schmuck comes to make an argument about a topic he has no clue about, you know better. Every time the media uses their powers and contagion influence on the population and causes the 10 or 12 more dead kids get shot, you know what's going on, and you don't reflexively react and give up your Second Amendment right just because the media did that. In any event, very wonky, but I think it's like time to dig into number 2. And I had this one that I was going to do with Barnes, and I have an idea to turn it into something else, which is much easier to read for everybody. Because in some weird way, somehow, polling got cool. All of this kind of got cool. All of a sudden, people care about it. If I write a wonky book about it, it's just going to be wonky and boring. But if I write another one that tells stories, right, as well as gives the data without giving away secret sauce stuff, which Laura refuses to let me write. She's like my editor. She goes through it and she goes, nope, too much. Nope, let them figure this one out on their own. Nope, with the highlighter or Sharpie, more like it. So yeah, I'm curious what you guys would think about that. And then also as another idea for a show, which would be the People's Pundit's version of a Sunday show. And the concept would be, instead of having these panelists on that just talk and give you their opinion about something, the concept would be taking, can I do this yet? Am I allowed to do this yet? Or is this still in too many talks? Let me just leave it at that. It would be a Sunday show replacement. Would you watch a Sunday show replacement? Let me hear your thoughts. Let's go. Crew Kid. Let's figure this out. You think that if Tom had a problem with terrible polls, he'd get them off his damn website. Yeah, you would think that, wouldn't you, crew? Also, what are your thoughts on Stephen Miller potentially being tapped for the National Security Agency? I got thoughts on both of these. One is Tom and the guys at Real Clear Politics are in a really bad position. You have left-wing groups, including so-called media outlets, targeting their advertisers and trying to destroy them. It's been going on a while, and they haven't fought back publicly against it. And I think, and I can't speak for them, but I think, because I think you'll be pleasantly surprised when this poll is released. I'm just saying that. I don't think you'll be pleasant. You will be. I think their strategy is to just have a better product. And at the end of the day, that's all they can do. It's hard, though, still. Because how could you do that? If you're Tom, how could you have a better product at Real Clear Politics? You can include the People's Pundit. That's all you can. I mean, you can include the People's Pundit and other independent pollsters who haven't gotten every election wrong in modern memory. But it's still very hard to remove the other ones. Everyone knows what the Washington Post did before the election. Everyone in this space, again. Maybe the average American out there doesn't know what they did, why their polls were so bad. But if you're a Politico kind of guy, you run a website that aggregates polling, you look at every single question and how they word it. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, the Washington Post changed how they worded questions in order to, there's a really cute, Monmouth Poll used to do it too. And this is why RCP did not put them in the generic ballot, for instance. They would say something like, who do you prefer to control the House of Representatives? And then publish that as a generic ballot. That's not a generic ballot. It's not. And we have proven this before. Do you guys, if you've been watching me for a long time, do you remember years ago when we used to do this just to go after people like the Monmouth Poll? We would show people that you will get a different result if you ask like that, or if you ask, for instance, hold on, I'll get you the exact wording. I'm not going to do this by memory. 1 second. Everything is two-step authentication, verification. Give me a second. All right. Why does it keep doing this? Keeps giving me this problem. You entered the wrong password. No, I didn't. Right now, our poll is 29 questions, and it takes 6 minutes to ask those questions. A lot of them, as you know, do not have their demographics. We're very demographic rich, and we're always going to be. Post 2024 vote history. I voted in 2020. Hey, you know what? What am I doing? I'll just share this with you guys so you can see it. I'll keep your thing up on the screen for a second, guys. I don't want to forget your two. It's a 2-part question. Okay. Is this the right one? Yeah. National Spring 2025. Vote history. Of course, you get your voter screens. These are prompts, and stuff like that. Agents will have to go through and make sure they do this properly. Looks good though. Looks good. Is this logic connected? It is. All right. What is it? So if they say, yeah, I voted in 2024. And by the way, we check with voter history. A lot of other pollsters don't do that. And you can't see what I'm doing because I don't have it on the screen. What's wrong with you, Rich? All right. So a lot of pollsters just ask, and that's it. We don't. We do something called, there's a couple of names for it. A data append, deduping, matching. There are different things to call it. So crew, if I interview you, I'm going to ask you this, but I'm also going to make sure that I can check your vote history, which is kind of scary, but it is true. I can check your vote history. I can find you and I can tell whether or not you're telling the truth. Okay. And if you're not, and there's other reasons, and there almost always is, to toss your response will be tossed. All right. So, 2024 recalled vote. If you've noticed, a lot of these pollsters who keep coming out with these Trump plus negative 8 to 12 approval, and Trump is somewhere in the neighborhood of 40%. You'll notice that their recall vote is way off. So Trump won the popular vote by 1.4, right? 1.4 or something like that. And yet the sample for the recalled vote is like Harris +6, Harris +9. The New York Times was abysmal. Only like 33% voted for Donald Trump in that sample. And they had new voters somewhere in the neighborhood of like 1/5 of the poll. That's a trash poll, guys. That's garbage. Now, if there are other things that are showing, they're showing you good data. Like, it's accurate, it's legitimate. It represents everything you know about the sample. And yet you're seeing larger than normal percentages of something like a first-time voter. That's when you actually listen and believe it. You're like, all right, everything else checks out here. There's going to be a larger new first-time vote. But that's not what happened in the New York Times poll. The New York Times poll, I wouldn't even be surprised if they did that on purpose. And it didn't even make sense anyway, which is why I think they probably did do it on purpose. Their sample size was trash. 700 is garbage. 700 and something is garbage for a national poll. Your response rates are way too low to be satisfied with such a low sample size. But then also, I think they probably were picking and choosing, cherry picking who to keep and who not to keep. I mean, this isn't really debatable. Then, I mean, whether or not they do it on purpose or not is irrelevant. It's irrelevant. The New York Times has missed all the last 3 presidential elections. Nobody cares what the New York Times thinks. They're horrible poll. And you have fake right-wing pundits and experts like Ryan Gerdusky up there talking about, oh, this is bad news for Trump. This is a very good poll. By very good, you mean missed every fucking battleground state? That's a very good poll? Bro, we all know you want your job back on CNN, okay? Get over it. In the wilderness. In the wilderness. All right, so we got that. Direction of country. Right track, wrong track. Register voter economic confidence index. I know I'm kind of going out of order here, but I figured I'd just answer the question. So why am I even doing this that early? Because I need to have all of the traditional tracked questions. All right. And that's what I think we should focus on this time. And then, of course, to get back to more of the question we were talking about, ooh, I got to put the generic ballot in. Oh, no. Let's put it in right now. Add page. Oops. Should have inserted a library. I'm glad you asked this. Holy moly. Where are you? Generic ballot plus leaners. You want to lean it? Should we lean them? Maybe we should lean them, guys. Maybe we should. I mean, we can do that. We certainly have the time to do it. You know what? I'm sticking the leaners in here for now. If I want to take it out later, we normally don't lean people this early. But even if it's just for us, even if I don't publish that for everyone to see, and the top line that goes on like an RCP aggregate or something is just this initial, which we should probably do it that way. I mean, at least we'll have this for ourselves. All right. And it would need logic. This whole page would need logic. Or should I just drag it? Can I? No, I can't. I'd have to bring it over. But yeah, this page would need logic on it. And I can't do. Yeah, I can. Nope. It's asking me for it. Let's see if I can change the logic in the library. I can create a new group, changes a page when calculating if a page group has been answered completely. Yeah, maybe that's what I got. All right, I'll do this later. We'll mess around with this later. If not, I'll just create the other question and do it and go from there. This is our library. Let me go back. Builder. I should have said back to survey. All right, for now, let's get rid of it. Did I? Restart it. So yeah, I mean, the bottom line is this is how we do it. If the election for the House of Representatives were held today, the U.S. House of Representatives, for which party candidate would you vote in your congressional district? You're specifically saying who are you voting for? If after that, I would add, for instance, who do you prefer would control the House of Representatives? You're going to get a different result. It may not be a significantly different result. It may be. But even if it's a point, 2 points, you know how we are over here. I don't want to just be right. I want to be on the money. Changing the question from a vote preference question to a question about control, some like quite literally generic bullshit question about who do you prefer to control it, is an old tactic. Everyone knows it. It's not legitimate. And yet, Washington Post changed it to do that. Yet still, Tom can't take it off, crew. He can't. They're a major media outlet. And if he does, he'll be criticized for it. Of course, at the same poll that had Biden winning the state of Wisconsin by 17 points in 2020, which of course did not happen. But it's tough. All he can do is put better stuff on his site. What are your thoughts on Stephen Miller potentially being tapped for NSA? Holy shit, it's 3 p.m. already? I don't know if I like that idea. Here's why. I'm not sure the Trump administration is handling any of this correctly. Mark Halpern had a report, and he's right. Pete Hegseth's gone if he makes one more mistake. I'm telling you, Pete, you're out. You better watch and stuff, But he shouldn't be. Could you imagine if Pete Hegseth, for instance, hid a pancreatic cancer diagnosis and then lied to the world about him being hospitalized for it or needing surgery or treatment or whatever. That's against the law for a defense secretary to do that, by the way. Lloyd Austin did it. The first black, this, that, blah, blah, blah. That's all they care about. Not whether they break the law, they're competent, or whether the guy said and held one of the only positions that could DQ you from being a part of a president's cabinet. Which, of course, is that he doesn't believe in the principle of civilian control of the military. Well, go work for some military junta somewhere in some shit third world country. Because in the United States of America, we don't believe in that. Our founders only agreed to a standing army later on, not even originally. They only even agreed to Hamilton's push for a standing army if it was civilian controlled. The Quartering Act was one of the biggest problems they had with England. Cannot just have a military class or whatever it may be controlling the military. There's no way to have freedom in that situation. It was seen as the biggest flaw with the British Constitution. Yet nobody said a word when Lloyd Austin did that. Nobody said a word when Lloyd Austin hid his cancer diagnosis. Nobody said a word when Lloyd Austin failed to tell the president he was going to Walter Reed for cancer treatment. You cannot have a Secretary of Defense like that. He is required, or she is required, to tell people and make this public. And he did not. Could you imagine if Pete Hegseth did that? I told them to their face, you don't give the heads of your friends over to your enemies in the hopes that you placate your enemy. They will just come for another head. Look at Tim Lou's tweet. Walt's gone, Hegseth next. You're never going to stop them from coming for you. All you're doing is showing weakness. That's right, I said it. The W word, weakness. He hates that word. And he hates being accused of it. That was weak. You gave up your boy. I wouldn't have picked him in the first place. He ain't my boy. But if you're going to make him your boy, you should defend him against anything. I don't give a damn what they caught him doing. I don't care if they caught him with a Russian prostitute and his pants down. My answer would be, why isn't Joe Biden being held to the same standard? When you hold Joe Biden and his disgusting son to the same standard, then guess what? Maybe I'll care. But for right now, go back in the room, Mike, have fun, get your money's worth. I wouldn't give a shit. You don't hand your enemies the heads of your friends, ever. So let me put it like this. If you like Stephen Miller, you should keep him away from that part of the government. Halpern's right about his segment. The national security space has always been the space that pushed back on Trump's style of ordered chaos governing the most. They think that's fine. You want to do it on trade? You want to do it on this? You want to do it on that? That's fine. You don't do it in the national security space. Well, guess what? Here's my answer to that. I don't give a shit what you think. Your ordered non-chaos has led to chaos. This is a class of people who squandered the greatest peace inheritance and peace dividend any nation ever in the history of the world has ever inherited, and they squandered it within 5 years. 5 years tops. Not even. Can't blame 9/11 for you launching an unjust, illegal war. That wasn't an appropriate response to 9/11. They didn't even do anything. Go murk the Taliban. George Tenet and his boys, believe me, had it totally under control. They were just executing people. Fine. We didn't need to squander all of our wealth, start a bunch of wars, destabilize the Middle East because you took away Iran's only balancing coalition and you left them free. Who gives a shit what these people think? They're the most incompetent, corrupt scumbags ever to be part of a ruling class in the history of nations. It took them a few years to blow preeminent superpower, unilateral, if such a thing is possible, system, international system. And for those of you who don't know what the hell I'm talking about because you're not in book club, there are multipolar worlds where there are 2 or more, or 3 or more, really, great powers. And they are balancing each other and trying to gain advantage over each other. I'm not going to get down there. There are bipolar systems, like, for instance, during the Cold War, when there are 2 superpowers. And by the way, this creates order. The bipolar world during the Cold War, which everyone thinks was such an unstable period of time, actually turned out to be the most stable system. It is debatable whether or not you can actually have a unipolar world. If ever we were going to prove that that's possible, after the fall of the Soviet Union and going through the tech boom of the 1990s, by the time Bill Clinton handed off to George W. Bush, we were in the peace dividend. A period where people were calling it an end of history. This is literally the end of history. We have something to do, something new. We have a chance to do something new. We are the only predominant superpower. We're the only predominant great power. The Soviet Union has fallen. Russia is weak. Britain, France, they're not great powers anymore. They're pathetic. They're a waste of an alliance. Sorry, guys, you are. Canada, those aren't real superpowers or great powers or anything. They're not. And it took us less than 5 years to squander that status. Who cares what these people think? I don't want Stephen Miller anywhere near him, honestly. Does it end well for any of these people? No, sir. Is Trump trying to tank Whitmer's chances of winning the 2028 Dem primary by inviting her to these events and appearing with her? One could make the argument. If you followed our polling in 2024, Whitmer is the person to beat. I actually think Josh Shapiro's stock has fallen dramatically. I now know that the Democratic Party, we all know, the Democratic Party is too anti-Semitic. They're too Jew-hating to nominate Josh Shapiro. By the way, who firebombed the governor's mansion, the governor's house? Media started off with the MAGA insinuations. Nope. It was a left-wing Jew hater. So it's Whitmer. And if you're Donald Trump, cozying up to Whitmer is a good thing for your base. It's a good thing for you to expand your base. It's a horrible thing for Whitmer because those ads are going to be used against her. The things she said about Donald Trump, the nice things, even tariffs. And I got to tell you something, guys. I admire Whitmer for it. She knows this is going to hurt her. Now, don't get me wrong. She don't give a shit. She's trying to create something new. She thinks the Democratic Party, and she's probably right, she thinks the Democratic Party is too far to the left, and that when everything collapses and comes down and the dust settles, her brand of Democratic Party politics is going to be the one that is sitting on top saying, we told you left-wing fanatics so. Not only can I win, but I can win with Trump voters. They would rather vote for me than vote for a Ted Cruz or a Mitt Romney. And we actually, in the conversation I was bringing up before, I was trying to tell Normie this. This is why Donald Trump's the only one who can win the state of Michigan. Too many of his voters would rather vote for a Democrat like Gretchen Whitmer than vote for a Ron DeSantis or a Nikki Haley or a Jeb Bush or a George Bush or a Ted Cruz. I could keep going. You get the point. If I'm Trump, I'm thinking this is all upside for me, Infrazol, but all downside for her. So whatever. Because, of course, if Vance is going to be the guy, then you want friction, within that party. No matter what administration is in, they are always surrounded by neocons and diehard Israel supporters. I don't understand it, Stephen. I don't. I really don't. I remember conversations with Waltz himself. What's MAGA to you? I'm going to kill me some terrorists. That's not MAGA. A MAGA national security advisor, an NSC team, would be predominantly concerned with getting the message to the world that the liberal nation state is the most stable, most positive, and prosperous system in the world. Nationalism is not a bad thing. We need to reform NATO. It's obsolete and pointless. You all need to stop being freeloaders who ride the United States' D, so you can then have these soft forms of socialism for your cushy, lazy so-called citizens. Get off your asses and start taking care of yourselves. Killing terrorists. Go get Alberta. Stop bombing little kids. That's not MAGA. To true MAGA, dead Palestinians or children are just as tragic as dead Jewish children. Although, without a doubt, they certainly support Israel more than they support the Palestinians. I would be honest with you. I fall in that camp. I don't like, the older I get, the less I like war. I don't like it. When I was young, I was crazy. I was like, yo, let's go. Put on the TA-50. Let's go kill us some Johnny Jihads. I was in typical young man. Well, not typical. Typical young man who joined the army. But war sucks. That being said, I also acknowledge that the Palestinians are running around like they're an entitled or privileged people. You start a war, get your ass kicked, you don't get your land back. They're the only people, whether you want to call them a legitimate nation or not, which is one of the questions we're going to answer in the book club. Because when we're done with nations and identities, we're going to talk about Benedict Anderson, imagined communities. But we can't get to imagined communities until we lay the foundation, and that's why we're reading Pecora's Nation and Identities. But it doesn't matter if you think they are not a legitimate nation, people, right? And actually, if you do think they are, you should hold them to a higher standard. You don't get to run around, turn the entire region against a single tiny last little country, try to invade them, and what were you going to do with them? Has anybody ever thought of this? What were the Palestinians going to do with the Jewish people once they won that war? You don't get to do that. Then get your ass kicked and then say that you're the victim and you deserve this part of the world back. This territory back. No, you don't. You just proved yourself to be an untrustworthy neighbor, and I'm going to buffer my territory to make sure, and that's what Israel is doing, that what they're doing is a rational response. It's what all nations do. Putin's doing it, by the way, too. Sorry, NATO's the aggressor. Bite me. You're wrong. NATO is the aggressor. The French did it with Alsace-Lorraine. The Germans did it with Alsace-Lorraine. You are creating a buffer because you do not want some satellite state or, your enemy's bulwark on your territory, on your doorstep. And that's what the Jews are doing. That's what Israel's doing. Every other nation behaves like this. They actually weren't going to until, I don't know, they invaded them. I I don't know what the hell this is about, Steven. I don't know. Like, it's very, I got to be honest with you. It's like painful to watch Trump make some of these mistakes because it's like you had a chance the first time. Now, don't get me wrong. He's not doing anything near like the first go around, but still. Oh, David. I've been there. Hey, you know what? I'm gonna throw you up there, David. I gotta watch your episode. I gotta watch you and Dan's thing. Did you do another one? I would like to watch it if you and Dan did another one. Yeah, David is from Canada, so he's offering his services here. It's funny you're available Tuesdays and Fridays. It would have to be a Friday because Tuesdays are usually Tuesday evening shows. You know, we haven't had a Winston appearance in a while. I think we're due. Sasha and oh, Winston. He left me when Mommy came home. Winston, come here, boy. I see you. Come here. Come here, buddy. Come. Oh, and you got your toy? Come on to Daddy. You want to come say hello to everybody? Come on. Sit. Good boy. Let's go say hello to everybody, Winston. Oh, you got your alligator that Mommy gave you? You got your alligator? Say hi, everyone. Say hi. Wave. Dave, say hi. Hi, Peppers. There you are. I hope you didn't miss it. Did you miss it? And by the way, Sasha, Riley, Kai, Odie, send kisses. He came in just to tell you, my mommy got me a new toy. So Laura's always frustrated, and she's always like, this is funny, Pepper. You'll like this. She's always like, God, he's such a pain in my butt. I can't stand this dog, right? She's funny, and she's of course like, I can't take him right now. I just can't tolerate. And then and then she's like, why is he always loving on me? Why is he always on me? Look at this dog. And you can't sit next to her on the couch. He will not let you. All right. If when Mommy sits down, he sits down, and she's like, oh, you're such a jealous little dog. I can't stand it. Right? Oh, gee, I wonder why. Because she's always coming. Got you new toys. There are toys everywhere. I'm like, honey, the dog has more than the toys than the kids. I can't imagine why he loves you. She spoils him rotten. She's so full of it. I think what happened, here's what's really going on. All right. And I don't think she's listening right now. Here's what's really going on. She had a dog that she loved to death. Literally. Loved Sheena to pieces. She did not take it well when Sheena died. And I don't think she likes the idea. Number one of like, I think she feels like she's kind of like betraying Sheena a little bit, which is ridiculous, you know, but also I'm telling you, it hit her hard. She loved this dog. And I think she just doesn't want to have to think about the next time it happens. You know, I think that's what it comes down to. You know, when you start to love an animal, as you know, I don't have to tell you, Peppers, I'm sure so many other people are watching, it sucks when that dog passes away. I still miss Louie. Hell, I miss Alvarg. My bearded dragon. My son's bearded dragon, technically. I bought him from like a champion breeder. He was shipped special. We raised him. He was only like this big. So tiny. He's buried out in the backyard. We have a plot for him. Not in the backyard, but like he's out there. You know? I'm not even kidding. Miss Alvarg, man. So I think she just doesn't like it. You know? It's like, I think that's what it comes down to. But, you know, who should replace Walls? It's a good question. It's a good question. It's a bad space to put people you like. And that's a tough one. Rubio right now, for you guys who don't know, I'm not sure how much the media is really explaining this to people, but the fact of the matter is that, yeah, by the way, that I will read that. These numbers are good. Right. They're good. Absolutely. Income growth is surpassing. I will read it. It's Lauren June. Lauren June is the chief economic advisor and the senior vice president of the National Association of Realtors, which is, as you all should understand and know, it is a lobby. It is a housing market lobby. Everyone like waits for those indexes, and Lawrence is a nice guy. He's a super nice guy, but he is the lobby for the housing market. And he actually wrote something. I think I should tell them you're right. Yeah, okay, hold on. That was smart. But with, you know what? Rubio is doing this job right now. Back to Billy's question. And it's too much. You can't be the head of the State Department and the national security. But there's one reason why I like it so far. The State Department has slowly but surely lost ground to the more hawkish elements of our government in that space. So, like the Pentagon, obviously, the Defense Secretary, the National Security Advisor, the NSC. These guys have had infinitely more power and more influence on U.S. foreign policy than the State Department has. At this moment, I know it's too much, but at this moment, I kind of like the idea of Rubio, who has turned, and this is real, he has turned into like a foreign policy MAGA guy. He is not a hawk at all. Something happened to him, and I know some of this personally. Something happened to him during the Russo-Ukrainian war, where he got significantly less hawkish and thinking that this was all a scam. Wow, if you're home, if you're back already, I'm still on the show. I'm late. Man, I gotta go get your brother. Or maybe you could while I finish answering questions. That would be dope too. Interesting. Yeah. So, I mean, for now, I would say it's okay to leave it that way. I just don't know whether or not it can for a long term. So, I'd have to think on that, because anyone that you may like is not a good idea to put in the national security box. All right. So, let's see. Hey, Rich, interestingly, China start to remove their tariffs on critical U.S. goods for manufacturing, notably plastics. But Trump is flopping my ass. Yeah, they never want to report what's going on. Because it is working. The strategy is working. In the economic numbers, you can see that the strategy is working. I want to show you something actually too, Blaine, that let me stop screen sharing that. And let me put up what she suggested to put up. I got it. This was the reaction to the job numbers, okay, which everyone flipped. Oh my God, this is not good, blah, blah, blah. We all forgot how bad, Blaine, the numbers were under Biden. I mean, it was all lies, right? This is what Lawrence Yun said. In April, a total of 177,000 payroll jobs were added to the U.S. economy and an average weekly earnings of $1,237. Income growth is outpacing consumer price inflation. Regardless of what may be happening on Wall Street, where half of the stock market valuations are held by the top 1% of the population, Main Street America continues to move forward. Homeowners across the country are also faring well as housing equity continues to reach new record highs. The manufacturing sector, however, stalled in the latest month with no net additions, the retail sector reducing staffing levels, and the federal government continues to be affected by DOGE with 9,000 more job reductions. As in recent months, overall government employment rose as local governments added 13,000 jobs. That's it to the education sector. That's a good thing. Except for the education, it's a good thing. Jobs are also created in construction, professional business services, and healthcare sectors, which has been gobbling up everything along with government. Moreover, the overall job gains indicate increased occupancy demands for apartments and commercial buildings. Therefore, nearly 10,000 jobs are added to the real estate sector. Primarily to rental and leasing activity, the economy is progressing despite all of the trade and tariff disruptions. This is huge that Lawrence would say something like this. This is massive. No, could you get him? That would be dope. I don't know if she is or not. I'm still on the show. We're having a conversation. This is huge. It's huge. This is huge. This is not a guy who praises America first kind of economics or Maganomics. He's just not. This is Lawrence Yun. The guy's been around for years saying, don't worry about this. Don't worry about that. All that matters is that Americans are buying more homes because it is a housing lobby. The fact that he's saying this should tell you something. He was deeply critical of Trump until the economy did well in the first Trump administration. I mean, he is somebody you would think would jump all over it. Now, why? He wants housing permits and building construction to go through the roof. He wants U.S. housing
new home construction, new residential statistics to be filled with America First lumber, to be filled with America First high vinyl. Like, he wants that to happen. So he's saying, I don't give a shit. This is going to work in the long run. This is going to be good in the long run. And by the way, where do most Americans get most of their wealth from? Their homes. So in the end, you will be more wealthy. And I'm talking about you, average middle America, Main Street. And that's what he said. I don't give a shit about the stock market. Do you care about rich people losing money? They're going to be fine. And they're not even losing money anyway. They make more money when they create this panic. And there's a whole bunch of selling going on. Those are buying opportunities. You are the dumb money who gets scared and sells. Even better yet, do them a favor and stop spending your disposable personal income on things like Amazon. So when Amazon goes down, they'll put a put on it, and then they'll buy it up. And when the shares go down a couple of points, they'll gobble it up, buy some calls, and voila, they made a fortune on your fear. Who gives a damn? Wall Street's overvaluated anyway. This is funny, David. Let's go nuts. That would be hilarious. Bring back Flynn, baby. Bring back Flynn. Oh my God. I'm here for the entertainment and to measure public opinion. I'm all for bringing back Michael Flynn. That would be funny. Here's the beauty of the second Trump administration, and this is what they were really afraid of. He's unchained. They can't do anything to him. He could even try to run for a third term. Yeah. And they would just go nuts over it. But he's up, guys. He's done. He's going to try to do as much as he can that he knows. And he does know this. He's a smart guy. No other president has the balls to do. America needs big change or it's going to fail. And our current political class is benefiting. There are a couple of things going on. One, they're benefiting way too much from the current system. And people always ask me, well, don't they care about their own grandkids and what can happen in the future? The answer is always no. Again, book club, Jack Snyder, Myths of Empire. It's always these people. They never course correct. They feel like they're insulated. And as long as the status quo is benefiting them, they don't care. They don't think like that. All right. Man, I guess I should probably boogie woogie. Let's just make sure we get all of locals first. Me. Andrew says, I think Rubio's doing great in the Secretary of State. I am liking him, so don't put him in a national security advisor. Colin McGregor can take that position. You know what? I take that poison, Andrew. You are this. Listen, Dr. Steve Turley, good friend of the show, brilliant guy. Man, again, some people do YouTube videos. Some people do content worth listening to. And Dr. Turley's definitely one of them. He's fantastic. He's giving Rubio the credit he absolutely deserves right now. If you're MAGA, you should be really happy with Rubio's performance. You could put somebody like a McGregor that you know is not going to last, Andrew. That's not a bad idea. Yeah. Yeah, but it looks like even after, and McGrill said this, hey, Rich, with the jobs, and I'm glad I read that then. That's probably why Laura sent me that, McGrill. Hey, Rich, with the jobs report out today, what's your take on the downward revision so far? I haven't looked at anything comparative to the close to the Biden administration versus the current, but it looks like jobs are above expectations even after the revision. They are. This is not like, if the GDP and jobs numbers are not nearly as bad as, and they're not even that bad. The jobs numbers are actually not that bad, because it's like, where are you getting them from? If he didn't attack the government sector, if he didn't attack some of the fake growth sectors and fake growth areas, which benefit the political and ruling class, if he didn't do that, that jobs report would have been gangbuster. But it's not enough for him. In the first administration, he was like, I just want to grow the goods producing areas too. And I just want to do this too. He didn't go after actively the other side of this equation, which is now we're in such a debt hole that government has to shrink. We cannot cut our way out of this. We can't. You can't raise your tax. You can't get out of this through raising taxes. We are in a horrible a debt bomb in a position no countries ever found themselves in. We're in a very bad shape. Government has to get considerably smaller, and the private sector has to get considerably bigger. Otherwise, we have no hope to generate revenues to be able to even service the debt, let alone pay for anything else. We are in deep shit. Deep, deep shit. One failure, and we're insolvent. Credit card debt, student loans, you name it. Something goes off like went off during the housing crisis, and we are up shit's creek without a paddle. The world is licking their chops. Who has the worst personal hygiene in the House of Representatives? I would guess Jamie Raskin or Rashida Tlaib. Oh my God, what a great question. We're way past the normal time, so forgive me for drinking. 1775. Oh my God, who has the worst hygiene in the House of Representatives? Oh my God. There's so many. 1 second. Hold on. I'm going to go through a couple. This is going to be close. Can I say this without getting in trouble? Is it possible? Man, this is tough. This could be tough. I'm trying to look to see if there's. I don't know that Jamie Raskin has bad hygiene. I don't know. Am I allowed to say this, or can I get in trouble for this? Is this like. I'm looking through a bunch and I'm seeing if there's somebody strikes me as one. No, she smells good, actually. Sorry, she does. She does. If I say who I want to say, I'm going to get accused of something else. Because immediately reading it, one person jumped to my mind because she stunk one day. She stunk. Now, she was out screaming like a banshee and protesting, and it wasn't exactly a cool day, but like, who cares? She also smells good, but you got to keep away from her. Be careful, guys. If I say this, I'm going to get accused of something else. I'm going to let you guys take a guess. I don't think I should say this. You know what? I'll just respond to you. Okay? You're going to get a reply, okay? There you go. On locals, another reason to sign up for locals. Who stunk one day? Do you have a question citizenship for the poll, or is that better for a more specified poll? I think it's better for a more specified poll. I do. I really want to just stick to what we were talking about here, which I'll show you guys right now. Row, row! Row, row! There's my little man. Let me say hello to my little man. I'm on camera still, but can I still say hello to my little man? Hi, gorgeous.
Hey, Ann.
How you doing?
I'm tired, exhausted already.
Is it hot out there?
It's hot. Looking forward to this weekend and not looking forward.
But you're all going to be gone, so it doesn't matter. I wish you were not. Pool looks like it's ready to go. I'm going to bring a water sample down to them tomorrow. Okay. Ro, come here, buddy.
Ven aquí, papito.
All right.
Vamos.
Hold on. So yeah, this is what we're dealing with. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, guys. I'll go back to the beginning. Of course, this is irrelevant to you guys. You won't care. Hey, buddy, I'm still on camera, but I wanted to say hello. Okay. You want to say hello?
Say hello,
Wave.
everybody.
Look at the camera and wave. See the camera right there? Wave. Say hi.
Over there.
Handsome little boy. Looks like you were hot. You have fun playing your best. You have your best life out on recess today? Looks like you did.
Day. We had
Field day. Woo, woo, woo. Yeah. Field day.
Smell like a man, right? We have this joke. It's an inside joke, you know. Pine tar, smell like a man. Dr. Squatch Soap Company. He loves. And no, we're not. Yeah, I know. It's like, we're a social misogynist in this Dr. Squatch Soap Company. Remember that?
Yep.
I'm like, it's not. I just like Dr. Squatch Soap. Okay? I'm not paid by Dr. Squatch.
Wish we were.
I wish we were, but in fact, we aren't, and probably can't be because I think that they probably don't want to wait in the political world. But if you're listening, Dr. Squatch, bam, pine tar. Love it. I love it a lot. My son actually got 2 new scents yesterday, which he doesn't want to use. He wants to keep as souvenirs. I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you doing? Why didn't you just buy 2 bars, bro? Little man. All right, so there's the vote history. We're going to do direction of country. We're going to do the economic index. We'll do presidential approval. Let's keep going. By the way, that's the legitimate way. Do you approve or disapprove of the job the president is doing as president? The X person, whoever it is doing as president. That is the correct format. We got for favorabilities, we have Trump, Vance, Thune, Schumer, Johnson, Hakeem Jeffries, Elon Musk. If there's somebody else you think we could add, I'm willing to take suggestions. Send me a message. But I really think I'm not even liking the idea of asking about Elon Musk anymore. I just feel like it's too much. It's so funny. Come on, though, you gotta admit though that's funny. He thought if I scream lower, yeah, she goes whisper and he goes, "Mommy," like low, like trying to be low, but he couldn't be. And then the generic ballot. And then, of course, we have the party affiliation. We got ideology. We got the identification details for Republicans. Do you consider yourself an America First Republican or a traditional Republican? Republican or Democratic aligned for, this is called the independent identification, but you guys know all this. Are you more aligned with the Republican, the party, the Democratic Party, equally aligned, or you have nothing, share little in common with either? And it's, would you say your views? Not which one do you more align with, because that, again, would elicit a different response. Gender, age, ethnicity, national origin, which we always do and keep for our own keep for our own records. Employment demographics, whether or not you're a union household, what you are, of course, education demographics, income demographics, marital status, parental status, veteran, military status, religion, we will be asking the expanded version of, because I know you guys like that better. Evangelical follow-up for those who consider themselves to be any form of Christian. And then regional demographics, of course, which state, we know that, but we always ask. There's this redirects. You can tell we're already setting this up for the online marketplace. If it's on text, they're read it. Or they can click on it and be redirected to text to online. That alone, if we go to test right now, you can see is a 7-minute estimated interview. And it's more now than 6, what I said in the beginning, because I added the lean question for the generic ballot. And honestly, maybe we'll just keep that for our own records. But fatigue scores, I don't like it when it goes up at all. I don't like it when even the needle moves a little bit. I just don't like it. The problems we have with response biases vary. And one of them that we know we can control is time. There are things we do that other pollsters don't do that try to deal with people who can't. I don't want to give something away. We get more completes for a reason. I don't want people to abandon the survey halfway through it. All right, we have enough problems as it is. I don't want a fatigue score at all. Accessibility looks very good considering there are some of those long-winded prompts, but it looks good. All right, so, I mean, that's where we're at. And by the way, Maris, if you need me to show you how survey forwarding works, all right, and how you can block the ability of people to share the thing since you don't know what the hell you're doing, I'd be happy to tell you. But you won't ask that because of ego, number one. And 2, you don't care if you mess up. Your job is not to be accurate. You don't give a shit. All right. While we're at it, Rich, any insight into the Youngkin Moran versus Joy Reid and Broglio in Virginia? I don't yet. I think that Virginia is likely not going to be a good year for Republicans at all. I think this is that kind of year. I think it's going to be tough, you know. I don't think, and this, Andrew, I don't think Pete has done anything to deserve getting kicked out, period. I know there'll be vipers around. I know you're very loyal to Waltz.
you don't give your enemies your friends hat. Well, it's not even that I'm loyal to Waltz. I really am personally, I don't even like him. The only thing I respect him for is I know what he's been through with his military training. I know it. And you have to respect a man at least on a minimal level for being able to get through something like SFAS, but I don't think he was the right pick for that job. I expressed that, and I don't give my enemies shit. You just don't. When was the last time you got a scalp from Biden? If you're Trumpers out there, ask yourself that. When did you get a scalp? The answer to that is never. When did you get a scalp from Barack Obama? The answer to that is never. They don't give you scalps. The answer to the media is I don't give a flying fudge what you think. The answer to them is suck my. That's the answer. Okay? You don't give them anything. But okay, let me finish your comment though. All right. The war in Ukraine must come to an end. And he did not know how to get there. That, again, I just never thought he was the right guy for the job. He was advocating for the National Guard of Ukraine to start recruiting down to 18-year-olds. I'm with you on that. I think, listen, there's going to be few of us that are like this. Sean and I, for instance, are very different. Sean was 10th Mountain Division, by the way. He was not on an ODA, but it doesn't matter. If you're in any of those worlds, you're going to run across somebody who's like me or like Pete or like Sean. Now, it sounds like a lot just in there, but it's not. We are the minority. Somebody like Waltz is going to have that in his blood, man. He just is. He's going to have it in his blood and think it's a warrior ethos. There is no shame being a former soldier in advocating against war. And I don't think somebody like Mike Waltz ever got there. It is wrong to prosecute a war that was based on a lie. There are casualties in war, unfortunately, that shouldn't be there. But no bullshit justification is going to help you sleep at night. You're never going to convince yourself that Pat Tillman died for the greater good. That should never have been an operation to begin with. It was unnecessary. He was killed by friendly fire. No misplaced 203 round that ends up in somebody's living room. Unless you're a psychopath, at the end of the night, you're not going to be able to go, okay, Rich, time to go to sleep. It was an accident, it's either you or them. Like, okay. Unless you're a fucking monster. There's nothing wrong with recognizing that that is the truth of war. Now, you have to defend yourself when it comes time to defend yourself, but we're not talking about any of this. What Andrew's talking about, Zelensky is fighting out of his own arrogance at this point. He knows full well that he is the product of a CIA coup. The Ukrainian people elected before him. They elected somebody who was pan-Slavic. The CIA overthrew that government. If you were Putin, you'd be pissed. You can't win that war. Zelensky's trying to keep his fat head on his shoulders at this point. And all these kids are dying, and all these people are dying. Entire generations of young men are been bloodlet out of that country. I just don't see the point. And somebody like Waltz never understood that. There's always going to be something that's like ingrained in you. I don't know. Yeah. All right. Let's call it a wrap, shall we? What about this? Why not omit Elon? Does the American public really care? That's what I'm thinking. I mean, I think I want to remove him. I do. I think I do. I just don't. We've done this already. How long are we going to continue this?
It just reminds me of your Iowa 2020 poll. Other than exercise and spiking the football in Ann Seltzer's face, it's kind of pointless, and time would have been better spent elsewhere, or not spent at all, Andrew. Right? So, like, if one person drops because the survey was a little bit longer than I wanted it, and I could have done something like remove Elon Musk to give them like one more piece of breath, you know, and gotten one more complete, wouldn't it have been worth it? Like, who cares? We know what Elon's going to come back at. He's going to come back at like 45%, 43%, something like that. It's going to be filled with senior 65 plus who don't like him. They'll be at around 35 to 38%. Younger people are going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of like 48 to 52%, and negatives will be low, like 35. I already know. I just don't see the point. I really don't. Congressional leaders, as a matter of fact, before I forget, I'm just going to remove it. He's right. That's true. It's just not a value to us anymore. It's just not. And in fact, I think it kind of just helps the media. You know, obfuscate and talk about shit that's not really that important, right? It's out of here. It's gone. I mean, and I don't think these cabinet positions are totally pointless. Have you ever seen a cabinet poll from a Democratic president? You have not. This is like this new thing. What they don't tell you is that 35% of the country has no idea who these people are. It's totally pointless. Trump, Vance, Thune, Schumer, Johnson, Jeffries, done. Maybe if we want to spend that time, we can add Kamala Harris because she's so interested in running again. Right? Yeah, I'm with that. All right, it's 3:47. Boy, we went over. This was like legit inside the numbers, right? Old school. Went inside the numbers, ran like 2 hours. Boom. But I got to go get more comfortable now because apparently, as Laura's saying, it's pretty hot outside. And I have Eric Hunley to do at 6, which I'm not even sure I confirmed that I would do with him. But he usually watches, so I'm sure you heard it. So, Canadian voters support the anti-liberal coalition 51 to 47, Democracy Institute. And since they're the only ones who actually polled the election correctly, I tend to agree with that. All right. Let me say, can I tell Hunley it's a go, 6 o'clock? Is that cool? You know, it's only every like 20 minutes. Okay.
That's fine.
Sure. Let's do this. And there's my gorgeous daughter. So it's official. I'm out. All right. Like trout. Because they're going to be leaving and I want to say goodbye to her before they do. All right. Nothing but love for you guys as always. And I will see you on Hunley's show. Don't miss it. 6 p.m. Yeah, I'm cooking. Deuces. Have a good weekend. Happy Friday. Drive safe. Don't drink too much.